This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. It just so happens that this stone beast has just been refined, so we can let him test its power, Yuan Gaohan said with a smile. Those ants are not worthy of the Calabash King Kong, Yunxiao snorted coldly. They're not worthy of me. With a point of his finger, a bolt of lightning condensed in the air. With a loud roar, dark thunder emerged, stepping on lightning. Go, Yunxiao said softly. Just send away those minions. Don't let anyone find you. He pointed his finger, and the dark thunder disappeared into the Divine Realm tablet. Where did you get so many strange species? Yuan Gaohan forced a smile and said, I think the dark thunder is also a mutant, right? Yes, Yunxiao replied. It does have the bloodline of an ancient demon beast in its body, but it's very thin. He took out a storage bag and threw it to Yuan Gaohan, saying, Old Yuan, these are the materials I got from the Purple Cloud Chamber of Commerce. There are also some starlight stones and vital stones. Help me forge a few swords. Yuan Gaohan took it and looked at it, slightly frowning. Although there were many things inside, they were still very rare for him. He snorted, if I don't have the starlight stone, my soul will be tortured to death by you sooner or later. Yunxiao grinned and said, we are indeed in short of resources now. This city is owned by the Southern Fire Gold Crystal Mine, so the local major forces must be very rich. I plan to borrow some primordial stones from them one by one. Yuan Gaohan's brow twitched as he coldly snorted, with your current strength, don't lose it. That would be a huge joke. Yunxiao smiled and said nothing. Old Yuan, watch carefully. The sword I need is not an ordinary 9th tier profound armament. Have you heard of the heavenly sword illustration? Yuan Gaohan was shocked and exclaimed, the Divine Cloud Palace's heavenly sword picture? Palace Master Chu even gave you such a treasure? Yunxiao smiled. The divine map of heavenly sword is one of the divine treasures of Shenqiao Palace. How can it be given to others so easily? But I'm lucky to have a look. The entire sword picture was made up of 81 divine swords and was divided into 7 levels, corresponding to the 7 stages of a warrior from the Tri-Elements realm to the 9 Heavens realm. With my current strength, I can control 36 divine swords. As for the 7 pieces of Northern Heaven Frigid Star metal, help me forge 41 to 46 swords. 16 divine swords made of Northern Heaven Frigid Star iron? Do you think that star iron is wood that you can manipulate as you please? Let's not even talk about the fact that 4 of them are mine. Even if my true body were here, it's impossible to refine so much Northern Heaven Frigid Star iron in such a short time. Yuan Gaohan said angrily. You also saw that Tensho metal just now, and even your level 10 divine fire was so difficult to refine. Yunxiao sighed. Forget it then. I was going to teach you how to control the true phoenix fire, but I didn't want to. What? You're willing to give me the true phoenix flame? Yuan Gaohan rushed over and grabbed Yunxiao's hand, his eyes full of excitement. Get lost. Yunxiao shook off his arm and said angrily, even if it's a complete heavenly sword illustration, it's not worth more than my true phoenix fire. I'm just allowing you to control the divine fire as you wish in the Divine Realm tablet. Think about the benefits you'll get from this. I knew there wouldn't be such a good thing, Yuan Gaohan wailed. You want me to help you refine 16 9th tier profound armaments just to experience the use of the divine flame? This monastic robe, isn't the price too high? It's not high at all, Yunxiao said with a smile. Even if you refine 160 of them, you might not be able to improve much in your understanding of the Tao of alchemy. But this level 10 divine fire is different, you know. Besides, isn't it your duty to help me recover to my peak? A bitter expression appeared on Yuan Gaohan's face. If he could sense and control the power of a 10th tier divine fire, it would definitely be of great help to his comprehension of the power of 10th tier, and if he missed this opportunity, there would definitely be no next stop. Alright, I'll try. After all, I'm only an 8th order starlight spirit body. Even if I have the Phoenix Divine Flame, I might not be able to refine a 9th Order profound armament, let alone the Northern Heaven Cold Star Iron. Just do your best, Yunxiao said. I'll ask Sheng to help you. That boy is quite talented, and he is a talent worth training. Then, the two sat opposite each other. Yunxiao directly imprinted part of the Divine Realm Tablet's power of rules into Yuan Gohan's Sea of Consciousness through his divine sense. After all, Yuan Gohan was a pure soul, so it was not difficult for him to receive it, and he soon entered a self-comprehension state. Yunxiao did not want to disturb him, so he turned and went to another place. Under his feet, he felt a slight wind throbbing. His divine thoughts moved, and a gust of biting cold astral wind suddenly gushed out from the crack in the ground in front of him. It was trapped in front of him by his rule force, and it fluttered loudly. It was the violent and restless immemorial astral wind power. Back then, it had surged into the steel too much and was suppressed by the true phoenix fire and the earth. With a flip of his right hand, Yunxiao took out the broken primordial heavenly eye. He wrapped it in phoenix fire and threw it into the primordial astral wind, then cried out, "Refine." A few hand seals flew out from his hands and entered the immemorial astral wind at the same time. He cast a spell in the air and directly used the astral wind and true fire to refine the immemorial heaven's eye. This kind of mystic artifact or physical body tempering technique was common on the continent, but it was not as abnormal as Yunxiao's. The profound level of the primordial heavenly eye he had refined was not high, and it could be easily repaired with sufficient materials. But, Yunxiao suddenly had an idea to fuse the power of the two elements directly. If he succeeded, the power of the primordial heavenly eye would be greatly improved. In the Big Dipper sect, the sky above the small courtyard where the itinerant martial artists lived was already dark and quiet. More than a dozen cultivators had gathered above in a small circle, seemingly discussing something, their eyes as cold as ice as they glanced down from time to time. One of them was a man in a gray robe. He was obviously taller than the others, and his exposed hands were yellow like dead branches. Thick black blood seemed to be flowing in his protruding blood vessels. This person seemed to be the leader of the group. His arms were crossed in front of his chest, and his 5 long fingers were constantly flicking on his arms, as if he was in deep thought. Shifting position and control of fire element. From what you've said, it does sound like the ability of a senior alchemist, especially that shifting position. It's impossible to achieve without a 7th-tier cultivation in alchemy. The man in front of him, the one who had controlled the earth sand snake, said in surprise, "Leader, is there a great alchemist among these people?" The skinny man said in a hoarse voice, "I can't say for sure if there are any great alchemists, but I remember the weapons of the fat girl and the woman in the palace dress you mentioned earlier. They were the Thunder-Gathering Pearl and the 100 Jade Fan, which used to be the famous profound-level weapons of the North Scorpion sect. When the North Scorpion sect was split into the Big Dipper sect and the Heavenly Scorpion sect, a small group of people left Manhwa City and entered the Divine Wind sect in Yufeng City." The dozen or so martial artists all revealed shocked gazes. The man controlling the earth sand snake was even more shocked as he said, "So these people are from the Holy Wind sect?" The Divine Wind sect could call the wind and summon the rain in Yufeng City, so why had they come to Manhwa City to plot against them? Could it be that they're coveting? Not bad. The skinny man's eyes became cold and he said, "Their purpose should be the same as ours, which is to get the treasure of the North Scorpion sect. In this group of 5, that Shui should not have a problem. As for the remaining 2, that young man should not have a problem. The key is that wretched man with the goatee. He's most likely a great alchemist." He looked down coldly and said either he's extremely confident in his own strength, or he has helpers hidden in the dark. No matter what it was, they couldn't be allowed to live so freely. Kill those that can be killed, capture those that can't. Oh, by the way, it's better to capture those 2 from the North Scorpion sect alive. Let's see if there's any information that we've missed. It might be useful. Yes. More than 10 cultivators acknowledged the order and instantly turned into more than 10 rays of light and rushed down from the sky, heading towards the small courtyard. The expressions of the Big Dipper sect disciples guarding the small courtyard changed drastically. "Not good, there's an enemy," one of them exclaimed. The pupils of the other man, who was slightly stronger, shrank. He grabbed the man's neck and said angrily, "Shut up, you idiot. Don't you see who these people are? They're all the people that Elder Sima brought back that day. Do you want to die?" The disciple's face turned red as he nodded repeatedly. The stronger disciple released his hand and said coldly, "It's all peaceful, nothing happened. Tomorrow morning, go to South Fire City and find some craftsmen to repair the damaged courtyard." Several Big Dipper sect disciples sat down cross-legged and used their vital chi to seal their senses. They began to cultivate quietly, turning a deaf ear to the outside world. "Who are you?" Shou Wei was the first to exclaim, and he flew out of the room. However, he soon met the first martial artist who had fallen. With just a palm, he was sent flying back into the house. The house was directly penetrated and he flew dozens of meters away. In the other two rooms, the fat and round man and the woman in the palace dress also rushed out. The two had their backs against each other and were on full alert. They were surrounded by more than 10 people in an instant, and the atmosphere was extremely tense. "Are the two of you the remnants of the Northern Scorpion sect from the Holy Wind sect?" one of the men asked. "Who are you people?" The fat, round boy was shocked and shouted. He and the woman in palatial attire were both extremely shocked. After revealing their strength in the day, they felt that trouble would come, but they didn't think that it would come so quickly, and that they would reveal their identities as soon as they opened their mouths. As expected, "Capture him." The man saw their expressions and immediately confirmed it. He waved his hand and shouted. The auras of more than a dozen martial artists exploded all at once. As they squeezed against each other, they actually formed a faint muffled thunder roar, causing the space in the entire courtyard to shake. The rogue cultivators near the courtyard were shocked and many of them flew into the air. However, after feeling the powerful pressure, they immediately fled far away and no one dared to come forward to cause trouble. Another two men rushed into the rooms of the goateed man and Yunxiao, respectively. Suddenly, a scream came out of Yunxiao's room, followed by the warrior's miserable cry. Roar. Following the demonic beast's roar, the door was suddenly smashed open. The martial artist's body was charred black and left a long mark on the ground. He was already dead. A bolt of lightning gathered at the door, and the Dark Thunder's figure slowly appeared. Crackling arcs of electricity flickered around its body, making it look majestic like a divine beast guarding the mountain. A demonic beast. Why would a demonic beast suddenly appear? The dozen or so martial artists were all confused when they saw Dark Thunder's strength. A demonic beast at the martial emperor realm? What's going on? And it's a monster beast that can control the lightning element. In everyone's shock, they saw Dark Thunder step on lightning and soar into the sky. The lightning around its body was like a layer of water covering it. After it dove down, it bloomed like a lightning bomb and exploded. A ball of lightning that looked like a porcupine turned into countless tiny lightning bolts and shot out in all directions. Everyone scattered behind them in shock. The fat and round Earthman and the woman in the court dress were also shocked. They hurriedly flew away and spread out. The lightning attacked indiscriminately, and the two of them were also shrouded in the lightning. The fat round guy was even more shocked. He himself also cultivated lightning cultivation techniques, so he immediately became greedy for the Dark Thunder. If he could get such a demonic beast, it would be very beneficial to his cultivation. As he flashed lightning attacks, his eyes quickly turned. After a brief moment of panic, the martial artists immediately regained their composure. After all, most of them were martial emperors, and there was nothing to be afraid of when they gathered their strength. The man who was playing with the earth snake cupped his hands, and an earth element flew out from behind him. It was like a huge python twisting its body, and the yellow sand flew in the air as it rushed straight ahead. The sand and dust exploded like fried beans in the lightning, and the tiny bits stirred up hurt his ears. There were more than a dozen other attacks, palm winds and sword lights, which broke through the Dark Thunder's lightning defense and landed on its body. Although it was not seriously injured, it was suppressed and could not resist. The Dark Thunder roared again and again, but there was nothing it could do. Seeing that the situation wasn't going well, the round and fat man and the woman in the court dress also rushed into the battle. Although they didn't know where the dark thunder came from, it would at least be of great help. If it was killed so easily, then it would be their turn next. As soon as they joined the battle, the dark thunder immediately broke free and chased after a few of them in a rage. The entire courtyard was in chaos. The skinny man's eyes turned cold as he looked down from the sky. Although he wasn't afraid of causing a big commotion, he didn't want to cause unnecessary trouble. This was especially true at such a sensitive time like the sect competition. All the major powers of Southfire City had already entered the mountain range. If they were discovered, it would be troublesome. His withered yellow hands began to glow with a faint black light. In a flash, he disappeared from the sky and swooped down rapidly. In a small room at the side, Yunxiao slowly opened his eyes and spread out his divine sense. He immediately knew everything about the nearby area. He frowned slightly and muttered to himself, "That's strange. That wretched man with the goatee has actually disappeared?" He got down from the bed and directly broke a big hole in the wall. Next to him was the goat-bearded, perverted man. The decoration inside was exactly the same as his room, but there was a dead body on the ground. It was the group of people outside. The goat-bearded, perverted man had long disappeared. Yunxiao's heart lurched, and he became a little vigilant. The man with the goatee had been acting submissively, which made Yunxiao suspicious several times, but he did not find anything strange. Someone who could play tricks under his eyes was definitely not an ordinary person. He examined the corpse of the warrior on the ground. He had the cultivation of a 9-stars martial grandmaster, and he had died from his dantian being crushed by a kick. Not only did the force of that kick shatter the martial artist's dantian, but the remaining force also spread along the meridians to the hundreds of bones in his body, causing all the meridians in his body to be broken, and he was completely dead. But from the outside, there was not a single wound. In other words, that person's strength was controlled so exquisitely that there wasn't any excess power. The demon dragon also sensed the outside with Yunxiao's divine sense, and it said in horror, "What a cruel method. What fine control." Yunxiao rolled his eyes and said, "It's all killing. They're all killed with one move. There's no such thing as being cruel." However, this kind of fine control is not something that an ordinary person can do. I think I can do it too, but I definitely wouldn't be able to control my power like this. It can be seen that this person is someone who cherishes his elemental energy very much, and has developed this kind of striking habit. What's more terrifying is that he can hide his strength under our eyes, the demon dragon said. Could he be a top-tier assassin? Yuan Sun appeared in Yunxiao's mind. He immediately shook his head and said, "Who knows? As long as he doesn't provoke me, he'll be dead even if he's the god of heaven." A vicious aura appeared on his body as he sneered, "There's someone outside who doesn't have eyes, and is coming down." Suddenly, a blue lightning bolt rushed in, followed by dark thunder, who was roaring and pressing its body against Yunxiao's leg, looking very aggrieved. "Don't let it escape, chase it." Then, 3 figures rushed in, all with the strength of martial emperors. Their pupils constricted when they saw Yunxiao, and they launched cold and fierce attacks at him, trying to suppress the man and the beast. A cold look appeared on Yunxiao's face. With a light step, he dodged the sword and punched the martial emperor's dantian. The fist glowed with a faint yellow light. The force of the physical body shook into the man's dantian and immediately made a muffled sound. The man's pupils suddenly became lax, the long sword fell out of his hand, and his whole body went limp. The two of them were shocked. Before they could react, they saw a blur in front of their eyes. Then, their dantian also felt a heavy love. In an instant, their souls scattered and their vitality was extinguished. Yunxiao checked the 3 men's bodies and said, "That's right. The man with the goatee should have attacked like this. The way he died is exactly the same." With a wave of his hand, the 4 corpses on the ground were immediately rolled up and sent flying. After a few bang-bang sounds, the originally noisy outside immediately quieted down. The fat and round earth and the woman in the court dress suddenly caught everyone off guard. After exchanging a glance, they turned into two rays of light and flew off in different directions. The skinny man waved his hand and stopped the cultivators who were about to give chase, saying in a cold voice, "There's no need to chase them. I already know the strength of these two people. They won't be able to cause any big waves." His eyes grew colder as he moved his gaze away from the four corpses and looked into the small house. His meridians are all broken, what a vicious method. It's not a good idea to stay in the house, so let's come out and see. The skinny man waved his hand, and all the martial artists immediately surrounded the room. They were scattered around the room, ready to attack at any time. For a long time, there was no reaction from the room. The scrawny man frowned and a malicious look flashed in his eyes. He said in a cold voice, "What arrogance. Since that's the case, let me invite you out." He strode forward and entered the house. The surrounding cultivators' hearts tightened as they prepared to attack, waiting for the man to rush out of the house and attack with all their might. A huge wave of power came out of the small house, making a few soft sounds, and then it became quiet. After waiting for a long time, there was still no movement. Just when everyone was confused, the thin man walked out from inside. Has it been resolved? That was what everyone thought, and they gradually relaxed their vigilance. However, the skinny man immediately made a move that made everyone faint. The emaciated man's eyes were no longer as calm and cold as before. Instead, they were full of shock. He stood at the door and bowed deeply. He respectfully said in a low voice, "Then, my lord, you should rest early. I dare not disturb you any longer." This buy-in. All the martial artists were instantly confused, and big question marks flashed in their minds. The skinny man didn't even dare to stand up straight. He bowed and took 3 steps back, then waved at the warriors scattered around and immediately retreated. The group of martial artists were not fools. They immediately understood that they had encountered someone they could not afford to offend. Each of them was drenched in cold sweat. Looking at the corpses in the courtyard, they had died in vain. However, all of them had already seen through life and death, and they all chased after the skinny man. The demonic dragon's voice came from the small house. "Why don't you kill him? If you reveal your strength, I'm afraid you'll cause unnecessary trouble." Yunxiao's face was a little pale as he said, "I only used my spiritual pressure to intimidate him just now. With his strength of a 9-stars martial emperor, it would be quite difficult for him to kill me. Moreover, it seems that they are of great value to us." "You mean the treasure of the North Scorpion sect?" the demon dragon asked. "I don't think it's reliable." "Who cares?" Yunxiao laughed. "Even if it's fake, we won't lose anything. Besides, he couldn't have lied under my spiritual pressure. Even if there's no treasure, I won't suffer any loss." He dashed out of the room and found Shouwei a few dozen meters away. Shouwei's expression was extremely ugly. He was currently circulating his energy to heal himself, and his body was covered in cold sweat. He was sent flying by the other party at the first moment and almost lost his life. It was not that the other party was being merciful. It was just that he had just advanced to 1 star and his abilities were much higher than before. It seemed that the person who attacked him had a certain understanding of his abilities. Yunxiao took out a medicinal pill and fed it to the man, then injected a few incantation seals into his acupoints, and the injury immediately stopped. Shouwei was shocked and found that his efforts to resist the spread of the injury were in vain. He was stopped by the other party with a few casual moves. Moreover, he didn't know what kind of pill it was, but just from the surging medicinal power it emitted, it was at least a 6th-tier medicinal pill. The injuries on his body were actually healing at a visible speed.